Venice shimmered under the midday sun, its canals weaving through the city like veins carrying centuries of history. Amidst its elegance, John, a seasoned safecracker, finalized the last preparations for what he promised would be his final mission. Holding a newly purchased necklace, a gift for his daughter Stella, he dialed her number, eager to hear her voice. The mission was dangerous, but it was nothing short of perfect, meticulously planned by a team of professionals, including Charlie, his trusted protege, and the mastermind behind the operation, Lyle, the tech expert, Rob, the unparalleled driver, and the explosive specialist known only as Left Ear. The final member, Steve, had already proven his worth by successfully breaking into a high-end villa while its owner was away. Inside the boat garage, Lyle worked his magic, hacking into the system to gain entry. With precision, Steve pinpointed the location of the safe, positioned directly above the house. The next step required finesse, which was applying a specialized paint to ensure the explosive force remained contained within a single floor. With everything set, a low-pressure bomb was placed beneath the safe. Seconds later, the explosion rattled the building, causing the floor to crack just enough for the safe to plunge downward into the waiting boat below. Rob wasted no time. He sped off, navigating Venice's winding waterways as Italian gangsters roared after him in pursuit. But the chase was nothing more than a clever distraction. Beneath the surface, John and his team, fully geared in diving equipment, worked swiftly to crack open the real safe submerged in the river. They had only 7 minutes before the police boat arrived. The plan unfolded with clockwork precision. By the time authorities arrived, John, Charlie, and Left Ear had already vanished beneath the waves, securing the stolen $35 million in gold bars. Meanwhile, Rob executed a daring maneuver, flipping 2 gangster boats and ensuring his own escape. Days later, in the serene isolation of the Alps, the team basked in their triumph, celebrating their weaponless heist, a feat that defied convention. Amid the joy, discussions turned to their newly acquired wealth, with each member dreaming of extravagant purchases. While others envisioned cars, vacations, and high-tech gear, John remained steadfast. His gold would be an investment, a foundation for the future. It was here that he delivered a final piece of advice to Charlie. Never stay a thief too long. A life of crime could only last so long before consequences caught up. As the team prepared to leave, their moment of victory was shattered. The convoy was ambushed in the icy wilderness, surrounded by Steve's mercenaries. In a heartbeat, the betrayal was evident. Steve had orchestrated the entire setup. The gold was stripped away, but the greatest loss came moments later when John was mercilessly executed before Charlie's eyes. Bullets rained down as Steve's gang attempted to eliminate the rest, but Rob reacted instinctively, driving off the bridge and plunging their vehicle into the freezing, ice-cold water. Steve's crew, assuming they had eradicated the team, left without verifying the deaths. Hidden beneath the wreckage, Charlie and the survivors took turns sharing an oxygen tank, their bodies numbed by the frigid waters. As dawn broke over the Alps, the weight of John's absence settled in, his loss etched into their resolve. 1 year later, the echoes of betrayal remained fresh. In Philadelphia, Stella, John's daughter, showcased her unmatched talent in safecracking. Her skills, refined over the years, had led her to work alongside police departments, testing the integrity of security systems. That night, Charlie awaited her return, his presence bringing old wounds to the surface. Steve had resurfaced in Los Angeles, changing his surname to conceal his identity. Charlie had pieced together a lead, a potential buyer for the stolen gold. Vengeance simmered beneath his calm exterior. But Stella, despite the fire in her heart, hesitated. She wasn't a thief. She was a technician. The distinction mattered. Yet, deep down, Charlie's words struck a chord. At home, anger and unrest kept Stella awake. The injustice, the loss of her father, gnawed at her. She replayed the offer in her mind, weighing her own desires against her principles. By morning, determination overpowered doubt. Revenge wasn't just a fleeting thought anymore. It was a necessity. She agreed to join Charlie's team, not just to recover the gold, but to watch Steve's world come crashing down. Charlie welcomed Stella into the operation with undisguised relief. Her skills were the missing piece. But Rob, ever practical, remained cautious. Emotions, he warned, could cloud judgment. And in their line of work, mistakes could cost lives. Beneath the rusted steel arches of the bridge, the crew gathered, each member bringing their own unique expertise to the table. Charlie, standing at the center, introduced them, recounting their pasts with sharp precision. Lyle, the tech genius, carried a grudge that had shaped his entire career. His groundbreaking concept for Napster had been stolen by his college roommate, fueling his relentless drive to outsmart the system. Left Ear, ever the demolition expert, had been drawn to explosives from a young age, an early experiment leaving him deaf in one ear while gifting him his call sign. Rob, grinning as always, had made a spectacle of his skills by luring countless police cruisers into the longest recorded highway chase, a move so wild that it unexpectedly boosted his appeal among women. Charlie, their leader, had refined the art of thievery since childhood, orchestrating crew-led heists with surgical precision. With introductions complete, Charlie distributed new cell phones and IDs, reinforcing a crucial point. Stealing was the easy part. Getting away clean? That was where it got interesting. The following day, the team rolled into the preparation phase. Rob charted the route from Steve's house to Union Station, identifying key congestion points that could trap them for 30 to 50 minutes. If they hit all green lights, 14 minutes flat. Charlie wasted no time, ordering Lyle to manipulate the city's traffic systems, ensuring an uninterrupted getaway. Meanwhile, Charlie and Lyle observed Steve's estate, its security tech state-of-the-art, impenetrable by conventional means. Left Ear focused on the perimeter defenses, an electrified steel gate, armed security, and a pair of snarling Dobermans trained for immediate attack. Beyond his fortress, Steve lived lavishly, selling 1 or 2 gold bars at a time to fund his excess, passing the stolen fortune through a Ukrainian jeweler named Yevhen. That night, Charlie met Stella in her apartment, watching as she honed her safecracking skills. They needed an insider advantage, someone with no known ties to Steve. The solution? Stella would disguise herself as a cable technician, infiltrating his house to gather intel on the safe's location. Rob and Lyle set out to scout a cable company, photographing work vans and uniforms to build Stella's disguise. Rob worked his charm, sweet-talking a technician into letting him inside her home. Moments later, he successfully duplicated her van's key, an essential piece of the infiltration puzzle. The keys exchanged hands, and Stella, now disguised, headed to Steve's estate with Charlie by her side. At the same time, Left Ear cut off Steve's cable feed, forcing his security team to call for repairs. Their phone lines, already tapped, fed real-time information to Charlie's crew that the official technicians wouldn't arrive until the next day. Charlie made the next move, impersonating the cable company and offering an immediate fix. Stella entered the mansion without issue, fitted with a hidden micro camera. Inside Steve's office, she discreetly filmed the safe, concealed behind a closet panel. As she pretended to repair the connection, Left Ear restored the service remotely, solidifying her cover. Steve, oblivious to the scheme unfolding before him, expressed gratitude for the technician's swift work. His attention, however, shifted from the service issue to Stella herself. Drawn by her confidence and appearance, he began flirting openly, eventually inviting her to dinner. Though hesitant, Stella accepted, knowing this was the key to keeping Steve occupied, while Charlie and the crew carried out the heist. Charlie admired Stella's nerve, acknowledging her crucial role in the operation. While she kept Steve distracted, the team would break into the estate and secure the stolen gold. Analyzing the gathered footage, Lyle was able to recreate a complete digital blueprint of the house. The real challenge, however, was moving the massive safe containing the gold bars. Given the hallway's limited width of 1.8 meters, only a compact vehicle could maneuver the escape, and the solution was Stella's Mini Cooper, perfect for the tight extraction path. A full-speed simulation ensured the getaway plan was airtight. 32 seconds to clear the house with the gold. With the load proving too much for a single vehicle, Charlie added 2 more Mini Coopers, modifying their suspension and horsepower through Rob's mechanic contact. Each car, reinforced for durability, was engineered to handle up to 225 kilos, built for speed, maneuverability, and brute force when necessary. Days passed as the crew meticulously refined every detail of their plan, ensuring that when the moment arrived, they would have absolute control over the heist. Rob and his mechanic friend worked tirelessly, reinforcing the Mini Coopers with customized suspensions and engine modifications, pushing them beyond their factory limits to handle the immense weight of the gold bars. Left Ear continued his experiments with explosives, fine-tuning the charges to ensure the precise force needed for their trap without causing collateral damage. Meanwhile, Lyle dedicated himself to hacking into Los Angeles's traffic light system, adjusting sequences, syncing pathways, and setting the groundwork for a flawless getaway route. Every piece of the puzzle had to fit perfectly. They had only one shot, and the margin for error was razor thin. While the team prepared in the shadows, Steve continued his usual dealings, confident in his security and unaware of the storm brewing against him. As was his routine, he met with Yevon, his trusted intermediary, to sell more of the stolen gold bars, fueling his extravagant lifestyle. That day, however, Yevon made a fatal mistake. Casually, he let slip that he knew where the gold had originated, which was from Venice, Italy. The unintended revelation sent a cold wave through Steve. With a hardened expression, he pulled out his gun and, without hesitation, shot Yevhen dead. It was the only way to ensure his tracks remained covered, but the ripple effect of his paranoia was only beginning. Shortly after, Yevhen's cousin, Mashkov, a high-ranking member of a Ukrainian criminal syndicate, arrived to meet Yevhen, only to find his lifeless body sprawled across the floor. The sight of his murdered relative sent a fury through him, and his pursuit for answers started immediately. Meanwhile, Charlie and Left Ear visited Skinny Pete, an old acquaintance, securing the final batch of explosives required for the operation. Charlie trusted Skinny Pete's connections, but in the volatile world of underground dealings, that trust was always fragile. The next morning, Mashkov's men tracked down Yevon's ex-employee, squeezing information out of him regarding who had been asking questions about the stolen gold. The description of a tattooed, long-haired man fit perfectly, and it didn't take long for them to connect the dots, leading to Skinny Pete. They wasted no time confronting him, demanding answers. With nowhere to run, Skinny Pete gave up the information, revealing that he had been gathering intel for his friend Charlie. Just like that, Charlie's operation gained another unpredictable threat. That evening, Steve left for his date with Stella, unaware that Charlie's team was in position, ready to execute their plan. But as luck would have it, a wrench was thrown into their gears. The neighbor next door was hosting a party, filling the area with too many witnesses for the explosives to go unnoticed. The mission had to be postponed. Stella was forced to continue with the date, buying time by luring Steve into planning another dinner with her. During the evening, everything went smoothly until Stella unintentionally slipped up, using a catchphrase her father was famous for. Steve's eyes narrowed, his suspicion flaring instantly. In a swift movement, he grabbed her wrist, his mind racing as the realization dawned. This woman was none other than John's daughter. The smug confidence on his face returned as he processed the revelation. But before he could act, Charlie and the crew arrived. The shock registered instantly. Steve had believed them to be dead, buried under ice. Their presence shattered that illusion. His first instinct was to mock Stella, relishing the moment as he casually brought up how he had killed John. The rage inside her boiled over, but Charlie kept his composure, telling Steve that his time was coming. Revenge wasn't rushed, it was calculated. Steve, unconcerned, reminded them that his security was airtight, his house impenetrable, and more importantly, that the gold had already been sold. He reveled in the futility of Charlie's efforts, believing his enemies had no cards left to play. Charlie, refusing to hear another word, sent his fist crashing into Steve's jaw before they made their exit. The next day at their hideout, Lyle intercepted new intelligence. Steve had planned to escape via helicopter at 4 p.m., while the gold was scheduled to be transported in an armored van, then flown to Mexico by cargo plane at 8 p.m. Charlie's smirk returned. Moving the gold bars presented the perfect opportunity to steal them, where Steve's defenses would be temporarily weakened. Immediately, Charlie instructed Lyle to manipulate traffic flow, creating road chaos that would direct the armored van toward their intended route, while simultaneously interfering with the city's security feed to hide their movements. Shortly after, Skinny Pete called with urgent news. Mashkov, believing Charlie had been behind Yevon's murder, was looking for him. The stakes were growing higher, and Charlie knew there was no turning back. This heist was becoming more than just about the gold. It was about survival. With everything escalating, Charlie arranged for additional backup. offering a reward to Rob's mechanic friend for his assistance. With time running out, Charlie joined Left Ear underground, working carefully to install the explosives within the subway tunnel. The positioning had to be flawless, as any mistake, and the tunnel itself could collapse, dooming their plan before it even began. Meanwhile, Steve observed everything from the sky, watching as his convoy of 3 identical armored trucks departed toward their destinations. One truck carried the gold, while the other 2 were decoys, each heavily guarded. Identifying the correct vehicle was crucial. Lyle's sharp eyes locked onto the convoy, studying their movement, posture, and weight distribution. In seconds, he deciphered the pattern. The truck carrying the gold had a noticeably lower ground clearance than the others, the excess weight pulling it closer to the pavement. His calculations were precise. Van number 128 was the target. As the convoy split into separate routes, Lyle fed the crew the correct path, directing van 128 toward their trap. The street cameras were disabled, traffic lights manipulated, and city blocks rerouted, sending the vehicle exactly where Charlie wanted it. Meanwhile, Steve, watching from his helicopter, immediately knew something was wrong. He barked orders into his radio, but it was too late. The transport was compromised, and he knew only one person could have orchestrated it, Lyle. The moment van 128 passed the waiting Mini Coopers, the crew made their move. They sped into a nearby train station just as a passing train arrived, weaving their vehicles onto the tracks at full speed. At the same time, Lyle shut down the entire train system, blocking the path into the tunnel with the train itself. The convoy reached the underground tunnel, arriving exactly at the predetermined point. Then, the trap was sprung. A calculated explosion erupted beneath the van, causing the ground to collapse, swallowing the van whole. Charlie and his crew were already waiting below. As the truck dropped into the tunnel, the mechanics slammed an iron plate over the hole, sealing their operation from the surface. The final stage began. A burst of sleeping gas quickly incapacitated the guards inside the van, but the team soon realized they had another hurdle to overcome. Steve had replaced his safe with a high-tech model featuring a fail-safe mechanism. Any false attempt at cracking the code would trigger an automatic lockdown, permanently sealing the contents inside. Time was against them, and Steve had already dispatched his men to recover the safe. The tension crackled in the dimly lit tunnel as Stella steadied herself, hands gripping the drill with an almost painful intensity. The first vibrations sent an eerie echo through the chamber, each crack in the metal safe amplifying the pressure in the air. She knew that drilling too deep would trigger the security mechanism, permanently sealing their only chance at retrieving the gold. Sweat slicked her palms as she adjusted the angle, relying purely on instinct to decipher the combination lock instead. Her breaths came in sharp, shallow bursts, doubt creeping into the edges of her resolve. She was close, too close, but the mechanism remained locked tight. Frustration clawed at her, but Charlie's voice cut through her mounting panic. He told her to stay calm, reminded her of her talent, reassured her that she could do this. His steady confidence steadied her, and Stella forced herself to focus. She turned the lock one last time, and with a click so faint it was almost imperceptible, the safe gave way. The lid creaked open, revealing 208 gold bars stacked neatly inside. $27 million worth of betrayal. Steve had lied. As the crew scrambled to transfer the bars, the distant roar of engines signaled their next obstacle. 2 motorbikes tore through the tunnel entrance, their headlights burning through the haze of dust. The chase ignited instantly, but Charlie had planned for this. Rob veered toward the large culvert, leading the attackers into a perfect ambush point. With a brutal maneuver, he sent one of the bikes skidding into the wall, the rider tumbling out of control. The second bike pressed forward, its driver closing in dangerously, but Rob anticipated the move and cut sharp, forcing the last pursuer to crash. The threat was neutralized, for now. With the Mini Coopers hitting the open road, Lyle took control from the shadows, rerouting traffic in real time. Charlie baited Steve's helicopter, accelerating recklessly to lure him away while the other 2 cars sped ahead toward Union Station. The helicopter's rotor blades whirred violently, kicking dust and debris into the air as Steve maneuvered low, attempting to force Charlie into a dead-end trap beneath the bridge. But as Steve angled for the kill, his tail rotor clipped. But Steve wasn't done yet. Seething, he hijacked a nearby car, his rage fueling his desperate pursuit of Charlie. Meanwhile, the remaining Mini Coopers had reached Union Station, seamlessly slipping into the waiting cargo train, where their mechanic friends stood guard. Within minutes, Charlie arrived and joined them, sealing their escape. Steve arrived soon after and saw the Mini Coopers inside the cargo. Determined, he approached the mechanic, slipping a wad of cash into his hands, demanding access to the cargo. But it was all Charlie's setup. As Steve turned, Mashkov and his men emerged, blocking his exit. Charlie and Skinny Pete had already informed Mashkov that Steve was responsible for Yevon's death, and now Steve had nowhere to run. Steve, in a last, desperate play, offered Mashkov a fortune in gold, but the Ukrainian smirked darkly, unfazed. Charlie had already made his deal, securing Mashkov's loyalty, and more importantly, Mashkov knew that the gold had never belonged to Steve to begin with. His fate was sealed. Dragged away by Mashkov's men, Steve fought against his captors, but it was meaningless. Before he disappeared, Stella stepped forward and landed a vicious punch, her satisfaction unmistakable. Finally, justice had been dealt. With the gold safely reclaimed, Charlie and the gang toasted their success, honoring John's memory and celebrating the mission that had brought them full circle. The wealth was divided fairly, and each member fulfilled their lifelong dream. Rob secured his dream car. Left Ear bought his Spanish estate, stacking it with bookshelves and his ever-expanding shoe collection. Lyle, vindicated at last, invested in a high-end sound system, gained recognition as the real inventor of Napster, and even found himself a girlfriend. But Charlie took the advice that had lingered in his mind since the Alps. He walked away from the life of a thief, choosing instead to spend the rest of his days with Stella, the woman he had fought beside. Their story ended not just with gold, but with redemption, closure, and the quiet thrill of victory.